Ironwood Games. This is Andrew. Welcome to another festival here on Phyrexia. This is the Dross Pits, and our emblem this time is if a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So, kind of double, well, +1 on death triggers on it. So we're playing this Abzan deck that I aptly named Die. I don't have a lot of death triggers in the collection in what I found. So you'll see it's a lot more of exile-based removal and a little control-ish in that way of just trying to get rid of their threats, kind of assuming if my opponents are trying to get advantage from their creatures dying, preventing their creatures from dying to gain the advantage in that way. And so we've played a couple of games with this deck and seen it. It's pretty fun. It gets a little grindy in order to win, but I have fun with it. It loses pretty easily or can be kind of grindy in the loss either as well. Alright, our opponent is going first. I think we're going to keep this. Even though I don't love it, the overgrown farmland into a swamp lets us play the Blanchwood Prowler, which ideally ramps us or gets us to hit lands, because we really would like to get this Puppeteer on. The other option, and it may change depending on what we draw, we drew a swamp, so that makes it hard. The Gnawing Vermin blocks the Skrelv, and so we've seen a lot of kind of green-white toxic with the toxic death triggers creatures. So I think I am going to play out the Vermin as a blanket. I'm actually going to mill myself because the Puppeteer can bring stuff back. And so we do want at least something to hit. If we trade the Gnawing Vermin, of course we could get that as well, but I think it's just that. Yeah, this Scry is an interesting like death trigger, but sometimes it doesn't add, so it doesn't give you Scry 2, it's Scry 1, then Scry 1. So if you keep the first one, the second one isn't as good, so getting those additional triggers there isn't great. As you can see, we have this Terra Sunder, which for 2 mana can get rid of an artifact or enchantment. For the 4 with the kicker gets rid of any permanent. Ooh, and then we grabbed a Portable Hole. So, and here's the thing that it doesn't really matter. If we play the farmland, it's going to be tapped. And then we only have access to 1 black. If we play the swamp, we have access to 2 black. Nothing we can do with it. But then next turn, the farmland doesn't come in tapped. And I'm going to do that only because we don't have anything that needs multiple blue or green or white. I almost said blue or red. And those are completely the wrong colors. So we don't mind, and then we just don't show our opponent our other 2 colors since we're sitting here not doing anything. This is
so many souls
another one. So we've seen a lot of this deck or similar decks with these toxic creatures, Kayas, and Lilianas. Yeah, that's fine. I will take this trade. You can have the Scry, and then I'll kill your other guy, and then you get 4 Scry stacks. So they get to look for a decent card. Can be good as soon as they find one to keep. Then the other ones aren't there, so they put 3 to the bottom, which could be bad for us and could mean so the problem is, right, like Kaya doesn't necessarily pose as a problem. Portable Hole doesn't take care of Kaya. Borrowed Time does. But Kaya doesn't do anything on our next opponent's turn, so I think putting something on the board and here the question is, do we need the swamp for the land? Or do we make a bigger creature? I think we'll take the swamp. I would like to be able to play Puppeteer next turn. Given no other options. Now, Portable Hole...
Oh, give up already. You're outnumbered.
Well, you're going to destroy your own target? Okay, that's fine. Yeah, it gets you a couple of mites, and that's pretty decent. But you did have to put Kaya down to 2. These things can't block. Portable Hull on one of the mites doesn't seem as good. This will exile things, so I'm just trying to kind of figure out what the best play is. Because we're looking at taking 4 Toxic next turn. And we don't have another creature unless we can put down the Puppeteer. But then Kaya... Death Touch until end of turn. Actually, I think that's fine. This way I have 2 blockers. If she... -2, Kaya... Kaya's gone. If you +1, whichever one you give Death Touch in the counter, it doesn't increase the Toxic, I think is just one of the ones you don't block. That's unfortunate.
Just how I showed you. You got this.
And here we do have to try and minimize the Toxic damage. This is just not a great start for us. Here I think we... Unfortunately, if we borrowed time, we can't Portable Hole. But I think we have to borrow time on the Kaya at this point.
I don't deserve this.
Our opponent is running out of kind of things to do. We can tear asunder a Might, which I think I'm just going to do now. We'll tear asunder the 2/2 Might. Only look to take 2 poison, and we've kind of neutered our opponent's hand. We desperately need creatures. That is the one thing with this deck, is we are a little bit light on creatures, and that's why I say it gets a little grindy. We've even the ones, and we've won some games, but we take a little bit of damage before we can stabilize and get something back. If we don't, that's a good card for my opponent. So unfortunately, because we played the forest to be able to tear asunder, we don't have the white for both of these. I think we can take the 2. We've got a Portable Hole. And I want to do it on one of the mites, just because it won't come back, even if they destroy our Portable Hole. Here, this fight ability, we've got enough land. I think the fight ability is going to be good if we can get into a creature, so I'm not... Fitting the deck for 1 land seems good, and could be, but I don't think in this situation we're so far behind, we need to just get a good creature. And this is a decent one here. So here's the question of kind of how we do all this. And I think the answer is containment on you, Tenacious Pup, and then we fight the Might with the Guildsworn Prowler, unless they have a way to pump it or do something else. Drivnod, not great. For us, Drivnod is the emblem effect, so now they get basically 3. They'll put an indestructible counter on here. We'll just take the 1. The nice thing is, because we have exile-based removal, the indestructible counter doesn't really do much. 8 damage from Drivnod next turn is going to do something, though. So we've got to keep our blocker up. Yeah, and drawing that land just was not good. And we've had, again, where this happens, our opponent's drawn into some answers, and we haven't. Again, I don't want to give them 3 cards, even though I could trade here. If it's going to die anyways, I might as well just stop a good chunk of damage. Fake Your Own Death is awesome for our creatures. We don't have any, and we're dead to their board, so we're going to send it back. Alright. So that's definitely the weakness of this deck. You guys have seen if we don't have some creatures, we don't get some things to do. And we can draw a little poorly. But it had that moment of kind of turning and stabilizing. If our opponent didn't get the Drivnod, it just had a 1/1 and a 2/2. We could have traded off differently and done it, but Drivnod definitely a problem. This Lessa what is kind of the impetus and kind of what I saw when I wanted to build around this, because if a creature, the last line here, if a creature an opponent controls would die, exile instead. So it just automatically exiles all of your opponent's creatures and gets rid of the death triggers. And that's kind of where I went in and said, well, what if I just focus on some exile things? So I think next turn, Wall of Runes is good. We'll play the Woodland Mystic. I think just to ramp. We can't really, well, we could attack with the Death Touch into the wall. But if we do this, we have 4 mana next turn, which means we can play both of these. Or 2 other things. Even though we don't have the double white, getting the double white's going to be one of the challenging parts of this deck. It's not heavy on white. But we do have some ways to search out basics, like with the Bushwhack and things. So, I think of our opponents so far showing us a little bit more of a control shell. Just looking to draw cards and maybe keep parity here. Alright. 4 cards, return a land from the graveyard to the battlefield. We don't have the second black to hold that up, so I think we will play Circle of the Land Druid. We will take the action. Well, we didn't hit any of those, and hit some decent things. 2 of our removals and 2 of our ramps. That's alright, though. That's alright. This Dreadhound is pretty good. It's led to a lot of good situations for winning that whenever a creature dies, triggers. And I believe we get the double triggers even if it's not our creature, because we control the permanent that triggers. And our opponent's creatures dying cause that to trigger. The Shambling Ghast is kind of what we want. So we didn't get a land. We kind of need 2 lands in there to get value. At least 1 land to get value off the Circle of the Land Druid. 2 is really good. I'm going to attack with my Death Touch. My opponent likely just takes the 1. Which is fine, and we get in a damage. We don't really want to block with it, and we can't block the flyer. They probably won't sack it to or sacrifice a wall to it, since it's just the 1 damage. The trick is to kind of pump that or make it enough of a threat. Shambling Ghast dies, we'll take out the Disruptor. So, I mean, we have decent creatures on board. We would like to draw a land, particularly a plains or some kind of white. Black-white would be nice at this point to get us our doubles. On that, well, we got green-white, and that's something. And I think... So here's the only concern. We could play Lisa out. However, our opponent left up 3 islands. And I don't know that we want to... tempt fate. Again, if our opponent... here, they don't have any... I mean, they can block 1 thing, so I think we just go wide here. The Fake Your Own Death, you don't get the double trigger on returning it, but I believe we'll get to create 2 treasures off of it, which could let us cast, like, the Dreadhound next turn. And just because our opponent has a handful of cards, I think it's worth kind of respecting that. We win this race, and if they tap out for a creature or something next turn, then we can go for it. Yeah, likely they send something back. They get a scry. We eat something out of their hand. If they want to counter this guy, so we still get to deal 2 to them. And if they want to counter our Prowler, I'm happy to trade this for a counter spell. And like I say, if they do tap out, then we can play out Lisa. We need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We would need a Swamp to play the Dreadhound. If we draw the Swamp, I think we would play the Dreadhound over the Lisa here. But I'm not 100% certain on that. Just because I do want this to live a little bit more. Here we go. Our opponent didn't tap out. So I think... we go for it. I think the only concern I have is if we don't attack with the Woodland Mystic, does our opponent know we have something that we need the mana for? And then they hold up more counters. If they do, I think they're losing the race. Yeah, I think that's right. We'll let them think about why I didn't attack with that and see what they want to think. I don't think it says for sure I have something. but just that I'm not willing to lose this, since they can chump one thing, trade with something else. So yeah, this is your best kill just because I don't have any lands right now. But I think because of that, I am gonna fake his death. And again, I'm happy to trade a counter for that spell. This way I get at least the treasure since I can't get the land off of it. The question of whether or not I mill again, and I think I do because it's, if it comes back in, it gets another dice trigger. Oh, sure. Okay, so even better. I mean, we didn't get the treasure, but we get another chance to mill some lands. There we go. All right, hit a couple of lands. So now we can bring it back. We've hit almost all of our removal and our puppeteer, but Lisa's going to be our removal here. So our opponent has just tons of bounce and things, and we're really trying to run them out of cards, which is great. They've missed some land drops, so they can't necessarily just draw and discard a land. But now that they are tapped out, we do get to decide whether we drop Dreadhound or Lisa. And again, I do think it depends on what we draw. Most likely, I would like to play the Dreadhound. So what's this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's not likely we could get both of those. We've already milled enough stuff that I think we don't need to mill more things. Hitting more lands is fine. And here, I think we've got a big 6/6. They'll probably try and bounce it. We do have to be worried about kind of milling out at some point. So I don't mind if they kill any of these things. I think we get value. So we're going to all attack. Because they can block something on the Transplant Theorist. We can block it on the attack, so we don't need any blockers, I think. And if they don't, we chip in for some damage. I think we get value. So the question is, what do we need? We have the double white. I think we will gain the life. And then the creature dying. Definitely hurts our opponent. They lose 2 life on that. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if I counted right, we're at 8. And we can play both of these next turn. Our opponent does still have 5 cards, so we have to be kind of aware of that. Alright, you can counter non-creature spells. The Dragonborn Looter. So our opponent has a decent and do they have a lot of dice triggers? They've decided they don't want to stick it out. Okay, we got to win. Huzzah. Alright, so 1 loss, 1 win. We got 6 minutes or so left on the... Ooh, get a little prize on our prize wheel. On our video here, Phyrexian Obliterator. Cool card. So let's jump into one more. See how it goes, and if it's... Maybe we die quick. maybe it's interesting we keep it, or we'll leave you guys here in a minute. So kind of as I get started on this, I don't love this start, but it has some potential. Just want to remind you guys, as always, if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel so you can see more of our content. I'm trying to make, regularly put out some videos and do that. Like the video if you do enjoy it. Leave us some comments, especially on these videos if we've made any misplays or done anything wrong. Please let me know. Want to learn together. No attackers, and improve on that. I by no means an expert, and so I'm always happy to get. Ooh, and our opponent gets a very early Liliana. So they're down to 3 cards, but
Nobody knows Dominaria's shadows like me.
yeah, sacking a creature is kind of bad for us.
One of your friends has to leave.
But we do gain the 2 life off of it. We do get Shattered Sanctum. Our opponent, so we could kick this. It doesn't do anything kicked. Our opponent is incentivized to block, which we then can trade, at least with the Stony Strength. And then if they +1 Lily, we each discard a card. Or I can Urborg for a Stalwart and play the Stalwart out. And then at least have a threat. Because next turn I can play the Puppeteer. No, I don't want to do that. I think we'll be a little cautious here. We'll play Fight Rigging is interesting. Our opponent doesn't have any creatures for it to affect. So this is definitely something we would like to exile away before they get counters and other stuff. So here the question definitely is, do we discard Swamp and really kind of screw ourselves out of things if we don't draw a land? Because we really want to put Puppeteer on, or do we discard Repossession to not get back a few things? I think we discard Repossession. It's good, but it's not worth, I think, these 2 creatures are not worth, and then that turn, that's all we would have done, would have gotten those creatures back to our hand. So here I think the Puppet, now our opponent can -2 Lily to cause us to sack, which we get one of the creatures back. And that will take out Lily. So I think that's a fine trade.
Off you go.
And yeah, we're gonna play the Sentinel Steward. Oh, we get both. I keep forgetting we're gonna get the double trigger on that. So, the Stalwart, not the Steward. Sure. Oh, Portable Hole. Really good right now because we get to take out your Tainted Adversary, and our opponent decided that was enough to overcome. So right on time, we got our second victory. So thanks for watching. Keep an eye out. I think we've got one more, maybe 2 more. No, I think just 1 more. We've done red, blue, and black. So I think we have green and white. No, we've done green. Is this the last one, maybe? I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we've got another festival, maybe not. Until next time, though, guys. We'll see ya.